Good afternoon and welcome to the October 27th, 2023 meeting of the Rotary Club of Beavercreek. I want to thank Craig Tapp and Brandon for greeting today, Eric Marcus for his Ticketmaster services, Pete Bales, Mark Weinstein, and Mike Zwick for the great programs we enjoyed. And Jim Gundel. Oh, you guys are the Ticketmasters? All right, so we'll welcome you to the front for a 6-minute speech. No? All right, whatever. And thanks to Jim Gundel for taking care of the website. They'd ask Denny Garvey to come forward for the invitation.
Good afternoon. Would you please join me in prayer? Oh, Holy Creator, we are grateful for the privilege of training ourselves in service. Give us open minds and a clear understanding of the steady purpose to make the most of our talents and lead us to the fields of work where we can best serve. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Joe Jenkins, Secretary report.
We're at 54% today, and we got 2 guests. Shannon, you want to go first?
So I have Brianna with me, who often looks like Abby. So I brought Abby with me today. So if you guys haven't seen Abby, well, say hi.
But we never see him in the same place.
I know.
Right.
Yeah. And then Rick has a guest.
Mark Smith, he's out there getting food.
All right.
He's from Sinclair, instructor.
Okay, welcome to Mark. Okay, Don Adams, come on down. Calm down, folks.
Certainly don't want to build expectations too high. Today is October 27th. It marks the 300th day of 2023. There's only 65 days left until the end of the year, and only 3 days left until Halloween. It is officially Black Cat Day. It's also American Beer Day, Boxer Shorts Day. I'm sure most of you dealt with this, Cranky Coworkers Day, Frankenstein Friday, International Bandana Day, National Breadsticks Day. You realize you have those. Global Champagne Day, and National Potato Day. We also celebrate Navy Day today. I know the Navy was formed 2 weeks ago. I don't remember what the date was. But today's the day they recognize as Navy Day. Here's the date, 1775. U.S. Navy formed as a Continental Navy. In 1810, the United States annexed West Florida from Spain. In 1913, President Woodrow Wilson said the U.S. will never attack another country. 1913. In 1917, there were 20,000 women that marched in a suffrage parade in New York City. In 1920, the League of Nations moved its headquarters to Geneva. It's amazing that it took from 1775 to 1922 the first commemoration of Navy Day. In 1938, DuPont announced its new synthetic polymer fiber that's called nylon. In 1941, Chicago Daily Tribune editorialized, "There will not be a war with Japan." Well, I think that changed later that year. In 1980, and I found this kind of interesting, American Dave Grillis set the world bicycle speed record at 94.37 kilometers per hour. And for those of us that don't understand metrics, that's 58.6 miles an hour. That's pretty quick level. In 1983, Larry Flint paid a hitman $1 million to kill Hugh Hefner, Bob Guccione, Walter Annenberg, and Frank Sinatra. His business manager immediately stopped the payment of that check. In 1997, Microsoft argued that it should be free from governmental interference. And in 1922, Elon Musk took control of Twitter. In the club, we've got some birthdays. Sandy Brubaker, October 25th. Joshua Foster, October 26th. My wife was October 26th. And we have a member anniversary, Jerry Piper, 19 years. I found some interesting facts about Ohio that I thought I'd share with you. This might be good for our exchange students. The state originated from the name of the river, Ohio. Ohio in the Seneca language means the Great River. Around 1670, French explorer Robert de La Salle was the first non-native person to reach the area. Interestingly, most people from Ohio fought for the Union during the Civil War, and those that did not support the Union were called Copperheads, also called Peace Democrats. Columbus became the capital of Ohio in 1816. Before that, the state's capital was Chillicothe, and then it moved to Zanesville, and then it moved back to Chillicothe, and then it moved to Columbus. Ohio is the only state that doesn't share any letters with the word mackerel. So these are pretty obscure. I had to look at that one, and they're right. And Ohio's flag is the only non-rectangular U.S. flag in the U.S. After Pennsylvania, Ohio has the second largest concentration of Amish living in the United States. After Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, Holmes County is the second largest Amish community in the world. Does anyone know what the official beverage of Ohio is? Tomato juice.
Got it.
That's amazing. Well, Chuck was here when it started, so. I love you, Chuck. Xenia, Ohio is known for its unusually high number of tornadoes and is often called the tornado capital of the world. And for those that lived through those tornadoes in Xenia, yes, it hit some pretty hard. Wow. And 7 U.S. presidents were born in Ohio. They were Ulysses Grant, Rutherford Hayes, James Garfield, Benjamin Harrison, William McKinley, William Taft, and Warren Harding. And Benjamin Harris was the only president whose grandfather, William Henry Harris, son, was also president. There was a man who stopped by his local florist shop to buy flowers for his new girlfriend. He asked the proprietor, you know the expression, you should say it with flowers. How about 3 dozen of my finest roses? Make it half a dozen roses, the man said. I'm a man of few words. There was a nervous taxpayer that was unhappily conversing with an IRS tax auditor who had come to review his records. At one point, the auditor explained, Mr. Carlton, we feel it is a great privilege to be allowed to live and work in the USA. As a citizen, you have an obligation to pay taxes, and we expect you to eagerly pay them with a smile. Thank goodness, returned Mr. Carlton with a giant grin. I thought you were going to ask me to pay with cash. Then there was a father that was very proud of his son when he went off to college. He came to tour the school on Parents' Day and observed his son hard at work in the chemistry lab. What are you working on, son? A universal solvent, he said, a solvent that will dissolve anything. His father whistled, clearly impressed, and then wondered aloud, what were you keeping him? The woman was waiting on a checkout line at a shopping center. Her arms were laden with a mop and broom and other cleaning supplies. By her hard glances and deep sighs, it was obvious she was in a hurry, and not a happy camper about the slowness of the line. When the cashier called for a price check and a box of soap, the woman remarked indignantly, well, I'll be lucky to get out of here in time to get home before Christmas. Don't worry, ma'am, replied the clerk. With a good tailwind and that brand new broom you have there, you'll be home in no time. Did you know there's something about leather dresses that when women wear them, When a woman wears the leather dress, a man's heart beats quicker, his throat gets dry, he gets weak in the knees, and he thinks irrationally. Ever wonder why? Because she smells like a new truck. It was only, it says Halloween's coming up, it was only after I shot the first zombie that I wondered why they kept coming to my door carrying a full bag of candy and ringing my doorbell. And arguing with a woman is like reading software agreement. In the end, you ignore everything and click. I agree. Me, well, I'm not saying the word without my lawyer present. You are the lawyer. The lawyer says, so where's my present? And there was a wise old mother superior from County Tipperary, and she was dying. The nuns gathered around her bed, trying to make her more comfortable. They gave her some more milk to drink, but she refused it. Then one took the glass back to the kitchen, remembering a bottle of Irish whiskey received as a gift the previous Christmas. She opened it and poured a generous amount in the warm milk. Back at the Mother Superior's bed, she held the glass to her lips. Mother Superior drank a little, and then drank a little more. And before they knew it, she had drunk the whole glass down to the last drop. Mother nuns pleaded, please give us some wisdom before you die. She raised herself up from the bed with a pious look on her face and said, don't sell that cow. One of my wife's third graders was wearing a Fitbit watch, which prompted my wife to ask, are you tracking your steps? No, said the little girl. I'm wearing this for my mommy so she can show it to daddy when he gets home. And then during World War II, my father often found himself stuck with KP duty. One day, convinced he could improve things, he told the head cook, if you give me a paring knife, I can peel those potatoes faster. The cook turned slowly to his father and said, son, you're in the army now. You have plenty of time. And then Dad was always, this is another World War II thing, Dad was always bragging about the gunners on his ship. Once during target practice, an unmanned drone flew past an anti-aircraft cruiser. The cruiser opened up, shells furiously flying all around the drone, but none hitting it. Then came Dad's ship's turn. The gunner's very first shot sent the drone into the water. 40 years later, Dad met the man responsible, and he told him how impressed he had been. Yeah, I got in a lot of trouble for that one, he said. Turns out we were supposed to shoot around it, not hit it. And then I'll finish with a couple of quotes, as always. Care about what other people think, and you will always be their prisoner. I learned that no matter what happens or how bad it seems today, life does go on, and it will be better tomorrow. Today's fines. If you had a beer in the last week, that's $1. If you've eaten potatoes today, and they didn't have any, that's a shame. That's $1. I was really hoping they'd have potatoes. If you've worn nylon in any form, that's $1. If you remember where Larry Flint had his first bar, it was in Dayton. He bought his mother's bar trying to keep it downtown. Problem is, I remember that bar. No, I never went in. I was young then. If you've ever been to Chillicothe, that's $1. And if you're not wearing your Rotary pin, that's $1. Dave?
Hey, who's got happy bugs? Super Alice, what you got?
We just had the groundbreaking for the Green County Gene Fisher Correctional Center this morning. Long time coming. It's a mandate by state. A lot of people came together for that, and the governor was there, which would have been special. It was raining, but it was okay. And it was nice to name that Gene Fisher. So thank you everyone for this.
Brandon. Best team in the country, 7-0, ranked number 19, Air Force, we beat Navy last week. It was big, and the best part about that whole game, which I watched, the longest PD in Navy Stadium history is now a 94-yard Air Force pass. And I want them to put that on a plaque so they remember who's their daddy. I'm singing something for him. We're playing the Iraqis or something. What else we got? Jerry.
Yes, I'm leaving on, tomorrow morning for Florida for the C7A Caribou reunion, here in Monday. Looking forward to it.
All right, sounds good. Who else has happy bucks? Sam.
Last weekend, my daughter said, yeah, not yes, but yeah, to her boyfriend of 4 years.
Who else has happy bucks? Don.
I had an opportunity to talk with the high school juniors on Monday, government class. And based on the response from these two guys, I actually bought them, so.
Great. Other happy bucks. Jim?
So I'm fortunate enough that I get to work with my niece. And my happy buck today is that I was able to recruit my daughter, and so Team GSI is 2 girls strong.
All right. And all of them they have all their fingers still. All right. The other happy bucks. Okay. So let's do the ticket drawing. Brandon drew this. It is 956425. Please remember that half of the proceeds or our half of the proceeds go to our Christmas basket project. 956425. Brandon was here for 425.
It was before me.
425 is our last three.
Going once.
Redraw.
Redraw.
Don. All right. 956445. Alex area. All right. Was everyone's hoping no joker for you?
Oh, so,
Hot grows. That's growing. I gotta get an accounting on that. Okay, so a couple of announcements. Who's got an announcement? Anybody have an announcement? Okay, so in our rotating slides, you've seen hopefully that next week's a board meeting after our regular meeting. We also got a request from Jim Rudd to indicate that we need help for Veterans Day with the installation of Flags for Heroes at the Hope Church, and then the following week for their removal. 7th and 13th, I think,
Yeah, it's
or
7:30.
the 6th and 13th.
And it's
6th and 13th. Oh, I didn't see you there, Jim. Here I am speaking. All right, 6th and 13th, both 4 o'clock for both of those, weather permitting or weather irrelevant. Okay. There should be a sign-up sheet for greeters going around. We still need a couple of spots filled. Any other announcements for anybody? Okay. So Brandon, I'm sorry if you had the winning ticket and lost your opportunity by going out to gloat about that Air Force touchdown. That's okay. So we are blessed to have another great speaker here today. Joe Shabika is a proud product of the California college system at the community college level at San Joaquin Delta College, then University of California, Santa Barbara, and then USC for second master's. He has an extensive resume, including a lot of strategic and leadership positions. He was the board chairman and CEO and president of Universal Technology Corp. He was the founder and majority owner of Open Additive LLC. He had 33 years in a variety of U.S. Air Force engineering, senior technical management, and senior executive service leadership positions. He was recognized for meritorious and distinguished service and leadership. And then he serves on a number of boards and volunteer positions with Sinclair Community College and other organizations. He's here to talk to us today about his work as executive director with the Dayton Community Center for Talent Development, newly formed this year as a part of the Dayton Foundation. And I'd like you to, with me, welcome Joe Shavina.
All right, some very friendly faces in the audience here, so that's always comforting. And thank you for advances. All right, yeah, we're gonna need that, or we'll just stay where we are. So I was here several months back. We were doing a golf outing with Rafi for Air Camp, and y'all were hosting a meeting, and in the course of that, somebody stepped across the way and said, "Hey, we're looking for speakers, and you guys are working on some interesting stuff. Would you be willing to come and speak?" And that's what was, here we are.
That cost me $1, by the way.
That cost you?
Yeah.
Well, if I'm costing Rick Brown some money, I'm doing the job. Yeah, let's get him to get up maybe another couple of bucks there. So I'm going to talk to you today about workforce and specifically what I'm calling talent. The lack of really a better term, or maybe a more embracing term in recognition of what we need in this region and in this area, and frankly across the state. As the bio mentioned, I was sharing with Dave and Jerry across lunch there a little bit. I was working 3 different businesses across the last several years, UTC, Arctos, of which Bob, Jim Rudd, and a few others here have been involved in, running those organizations. And it started a laser printing 3D additive manufacturing company that's still operating out of the Indian Ripple facility there at the Russ Center. And another group that was out of Port St. Lucie, Florida. And I was just, tooling along, having fun, serving on these boards, and kind of in my brain, I started looking at my businesses and saying, okay, I need to be able to hire some specific talent and some people to come in and work these jobs, not only for the tech areas that I was leading in the companies, but then also for and in support of the contract work that we were doing for the Air Force, for NASA, for other federal agencies under the companies that I ran. And it was just not a straightforward, easy path to find that workforce. And in fact, it started across the last several years here to be the point of there just is not enough to go around. And we started to find that businesses were poaching from each other, right? And so if I can get somebody and I get some talent, and if I can, get somebody that's got a clearance or got, these capabilities and products, and I can pay them a few dollars more, they'll hop over here. And, you can't fault the employee for doing that. No, I didn't, I certainly didn't. And if any one of my companies, somebody was getting a job inside the fence with the United States Air Force, which I'll be happy to support that plaque that you're going to put together there on the 4-yard pass. Absolutely, we celebrated that. But as I started to look at this, so there were a group of us working on this in terms of STEM education, STEM excitement, the work I was doing with the Sinclair Community College, the work that I did with the Dayton Regional STEM School, the work and support I've done with Clark State, continue to do there, Wright State University. It was evident that we needed to do something different in the region. And so started to put together a little study on this, and was working with Air Camp folks. Some of you know these folks, Vince Russo, Dick Reynolds, was working with the Dayton Foundation of Mike Parks, working with Tom Lasley out of Learn to Earn Dayton, working with Shannon Cox, Montgomery County ESC, and working with Cassie Barlow, who was running Sochi for us here in the region. We were looking at this problem set, saying, okay, how can we get ahead of the game? And how can we as a region collectively start to support and develop individuals to come into these STEM type jobs, STEM heavy, STEM light, and gain employment and, better their station in life. And so put this story together, and on December 21st of last year, we briefed Lieutenant Governor John Husted here at the Dayton Foundation. He stopped by on his way back towards Columbus, spent a couple hours with us. And at the end of it, he said, we need this. We need this in this region. We need this kind of a model and capability across the state. And he said, who's leading this? And I had been the talking head for this particular study and this work. And I thought, boy, I really would like to lead this, but I'm already overcommitted. If I went home and told my wife that I'd taken on one more thing, she would absolutely kill me. And so that was going to happen. But across the course of the days there, it actually did happen that I transitioned out of all the other businesses and jobs that I had and hopped over to the Dayton Foundation to lead this work. And that's what I want to share with you today. So that's a little bit of the background, the history, and I'll tell you kind of where we've been and where it is that we're hoping to go with this. Okay. Well, that almost works. Which one was the, where'd she go? Which one was that?
Point down, I don't know what.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay. So as you look at this, many of you are familiar with this game. You've played it with your families, you played it as kids, and it's still out there today. But really what we're talking about here is the game of life. And what I have found in the course of the last really 8-9 months that I've been working on this is that there are many that, our culture overall is rooted in follow your dream. Right? I mean, that's the American way of life. That's why we have people that immigrated to the United States. That's why my grandparents immigrated to the United States. That's why people today are immigrating to the United States. That's why people today are, walking across the borders to get to the United States to follow their dream. I mean, we are the land of hope and opportunity. The reality is that we have many, many, many in our region, in our area, here in the Dayton communities. We have many across the state of Ohio. We have many across the United States that have no ability to even envision and understand what their dream could be. They can't see past because they don't know what the opportunity space is. Many of these families that are coming in, that are living in our regions, living in our communities, they're just trying to survive. They're just trying to get the basics of, keeping a roof over their head, to get their rent paid, to get groceries on the table. And it takes, not only the mom, dad, if they have the mom, dad, it takes the kids as well to be working jobs that are contributing towards that family economy and contributing towards trying to keep that household up and running. So when you come to them and say, okay, well, there's some opportunities for these great, technical type jobs, and you need some education to do that, be it a certificate, a credential, a 2-year associate's degree, they have no capacity of even envisioning what that particular opportunity could be. They can't see themselves in that job. They also can't see themselves or understand how they could stop doing what they're doing, which is just keeping their ability to survive and exist, to go off to school. And so it's a major problem set that we have that finally basically culminates and peaks at a point in time when we across the region are, finding ourselves, in a great opportunity space. As you look and you read the papers and you look at everything that's going on here in this particular part of Dayton, Ohio, and you look at Ohio at large, right? The big one, obviously, that everybody talks about is the seeding of the Intel plant, right? That chip making, onshoring, which I applaud that, wholeheartedly applaud that from not only a civil piece, but also from my defense background, Bob's defense background, Jim's and others in here that work in the Defense Department, Jerry, others, right? And I'm sure there are others of you that I've not had the chance to meet yet. The guy I'm trying to get to put more money in over here, Rick, CEO fellow bud of mine. Right? I mean, There's a DoD chipset piece of that, which is already stitched into the Wright-Patterson team here, the Sensors and Materials Directorate, that are working there, and that is wonderful. I mean, we need those capabilities. But outside and beyond that, in this particular region, right, when you look at the things that are being bedded down and seeded here in this community, you know, there are several areas, electric vehicles for one, right? We have basically, Ohio has won the bidding of the bet of the future of electric vehicle production. So just up the road in Sydney, Honda is building with LG Energy Systems, you know, a big new plant that's going to build batteries for all the Honda vehicles. Ford's got their electric vehicle production here. General Motors has their electric vehicle production, you know, in the state here as well, along with their diesel production in terms of the Duramax that are coming in. And so, you know, we see these opportunities coming. All these here, just like the Intel jobs, are net new jobs to the region. Okay, they're new. They do not exist today. They will exist tomorrow, and so that means that we need to skill new workforce to take on these particular jobs. We have an opportunity where there are folks that are working, for example, in the internal combustion engine type manufacturing, that need to get reskilled and retooled to be able to go work in these high voltage, electrical type jobs, and we will do that. But also, we're not at the end of the internal combustion engine area yet either, right? So we kind of need both. So net new. When you also look at, what's going on just in this particular region, you see a site picture like this, right? So earlier this year, we had the announcement that let's see who's up there first. General Motors, right? General Motors is working at the Duramax plant. I don't know if any of you have ever had the opportunity to go get a tour of that Duramax plant. I did have that opportunity in July of this year. It is awesome, just amazing. And the automation and the technology that's there is about 20 years old in terms of what they're working with in terms of their robotic systems and all, in terms of how they process and touch materials. The new plant they're going to build outside of Brookville is going to basically quadruple their capacity from what they're doing today, and it's going to be the latest of AI, machine learning type technologies, digital thread, digital manufacturing. And so we need to be able to step up and provide a few thousand workers for them. Sierra Nevada Corporation, currently just in the news yesterday, they've got their permits done. They're starting to build their second hangar down at the Dayton Airport there to do aircraft modification. They built one, they built two. They have the potential to build 10 more hangars in this next couple of years here to do aircraft mod work that will be stationed here in the state and each of the state and community. Joby Aviation on 18 September this year. I don't know what happened there, but it happened. Did their selection of Dayton, Ohio as the birthplace of aviation, where they're going to do their manufacturing of that particular advanced air mobility, air taxi type capability. And so that is giving birth to a whole new aviation industry, right? So on the backs of the Wright brothers, powered flight, all the way forward now to the point where we're looking at basically the ideation, the thought of flying vehicles, flying cars, flying taxis. That kind of inter-community, inter-service thing is actually being driven out of this Dayton region and will be brought to the world. There's more in the pipeline. There are more and more opportunities coming, and over the next several months, from the time I'm spending some time now working with the Dayton Development Coalition. As we're looking at opportunities and companies that want to come into the Midwest and they want to come in to, come off the shores, and they want to reshore back in the United States, Ohio, and the Midwest, and the manufacturing community and the skills that we have here are where they want to land, which is all great. But, these are all net new jobs or jobs that require new skills or reskilling, and, we can't fail, right? So, well, it is wonderful, and I'll play a little bit of, something I'm going to rail against here a little bit of regionalism. It's wonderful that we have Intel coming to the state of Ohio, and we will seat the required workforce, and we'll build out the factory, and we'll make sure that that happens. That's wonderful for Delaware, Ohio. That's wonderful for the state of Ohio and the Columbus region. However, when I look here in this region, what I'm telling elected officials in my community here, what I'm writing to them about, what I'm telling the Dayton Development Coalition about, what I'm telling the base folks about, I'm telling everybody is like, look, you know, we can't fail at delivering on these particular jobs and opportunities either. We have to make sure that we marshal our resources in the region, in the area, and that we come together to be able to deliver on these. Because if we fail and we can't get Joby the 2,000 workers that they need, we can't get Duramax the workers and the workforce that they need, they're not going to place their next plant here. In fact, they're not going to stay here. They will move to other areas in the United States and or maybe overseas where they can't get that workforce. So that's kind of the problem set that we posited with the Lieutenant Governor overall, and said, you know, we want to be able to study this and set up kind of the path to do it. And so that's what I undertook, was really looking at how to define this problem. So 1st of May, started, you know, reaching out to various stakeholders, and we interviewed about 42 different organizations that range from STEM educators, STEM exciters, industry associations, employers, medical folks. I mean, you know, whole cross section of stakeholders. We interviewed, sat down for about 90 minutes with each of them, got copious notes. Like I could write a good book out of this. And basically what I'm trying to do here is highlighted in red in a few words. I'm not going to go through reading these. You guys can read them faster than I could ever talk them. Is basically what we found. Okay. We need to grow this pipeline. We need to have the ability to get people, you know, into the workspace. We can use automation techniques that provide some leverage, but it is not enough. Okay. And if we want to apply and utilize automation and those types of things, we need to train and skill for that. So that can't be the answer. I share several years back when I was with the Air Force, I sat in a trade meeting with Canada here in the region, and I was aghast and appalled because in this particular meeting, somebody out of the Springfield area said that, you know, our problem with workforce here in the United States is that we didn't tell women 20 years ago to have more kids. And so if we would have done that, we wouldn't have this problem. Oh, you know, first I was like jaw dropped on the table. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just said that. I mean, no, that's horrific. It's ridiculous. It's not going to happen, right? We have who we have. And so we've got to be able to work in and around and with who we have. STEM. I was probably in my time with the Air Force and Bob Cochoy's time with the Air Force leadership role, probably the guys that like pushed hard to get STEM defined as an area. And I come today and look at this and think that it's probably was maybe, you know, good at the time, but maybe it's overlived its usefulness at this particular point in time. Because when you push something as STEM, what you find is that many, you know, self-eliminate. Parents, you know, don't understand it. They think, okay, I'm gonna, you know, get my kid going in this, and they're gonna ask me for help on their math or science, whatever. I can't do it, so therefore they can't do it. I can't see them doing it. Kids in and of themselves self-eliminate. The reality is it's not that hard. I can tell you, Joe Shadika can do it, right? Anybody can do it. But what we got to do is, you know, get folks in, get them into training, get them into the opportunity to start learning how to do this stuff, and they'll recognize that they have done the STEM, they've done the math, they've done the physics, they've done, you know, whatever it takes to be able to, you know, work and be successful in a particular area. When you look at kind of, you know, industry folks, when we talk to them, they fundamentally come across and say, well, you know, the educators, they're just not focused on what our needs are. I don't know, they're educating to an end of education, but when I hire any one of kids or individuals, adults that come through the programs, they don't know how to go to work, right? They're very theoretically book oriented. They can solve theoretical problems all day, but this is the real world. We need folks that can actually go to work. And I mean, it comes down to when you ask industry a lot of, you know, what are your requirements? they're down to like what I would call the stupid things. But it's the reality of where we're at today, because many don't know how to use a phone. Many don't know that, yeah, work starts at 8 o'clock. That means you're there at 7:45 or 7:30 in the morning. And when 8 shows up, you're ready to go to work. Doesn't mean that you're just getting out of bed. Doesn't mean that you're, thinking, well, do I have to go in 5 days a week or 4 days a week? Or, I mean, it's these very soft skill sets, things are the kind of requirements that industry is begging for. Just get those into the workforce. Get us folks that can, talk and share information and get along with others, not those that spend all their time, living inside of this stupid little thing, right? And I'm guilty. I live inside of this a lot. But the reality is that in the workplace, we need something beyond that. So industry, if they can get that far, then they're saying, well, we'll work the rest of it. But what is happening is that, they're getting workers in, they're not getting them to the point where the curriculum and the programs are allowing these kids to get their fingernails dirty, to touch the technology, to touch, the actual problems that they're trying to solve. And many of the kids live in a virtual world today where everything is solved in 20 minutes, right? I mean, every sitcom is, 2 or 3 commercials, run to the refrigerator and back, and we've got World Hunger solved. It's in a PowerPoint presentation, so everything works in a PowerPoint presentation or in a keynote presentation. Everything works. There's nothing that goes beyond the actual elements of understanding how systems interact and how physics and math and all that have to come into play in terms of the complex systems that we make. Okay, here's where I said earlier I would rally against being territorial. We have a problem in the area, and to my elected officials and friends here, I apologize up front, but you've known me for a lot of years here, and I'll say what I need to say. I mean, we are killing ourselves in this region by having, regionalized governments, right? And so we have the city of Beavercreek, the city of Kettering, the village of Beavercreek, the village of Kettering, Washington Township, Centerville, Dayton, you name it. And then you get beyond that, we have Montgomery County, Greene County. And so there's so many fiefdoms, and we cut everything up so far and so much that we can't marshal resources, to get to the other side of saying, look, we're working together as a region, we're working together as a community to deliver this. And I get it. I mean, I understand the tax base, I understand the quality of life, I understand all of that. But we have got to get beyond that somehow, some way. Maybe it's through, Wright-Patterson has established like a council of governments. When I worked on the Wright-Pat side there, I mean, we're bringing workforce and workers in, new mission and all those things in, and we're arguing, with the communities that are surrounding us and those outside the fence line and the base, on tax base and everything else. When I'm bringing in, several high-tech, high-end, high jobs that are going to, grow the area at large, and we're circling the wagons and we're shooting in. And so somehow we've got to get past that territorialism and that mindset, and we've got to get past the scarcity mindset. When you look at everything that is going on in the state, you go back a couple of charts here with the things that we're bringing into the region, right? I mean, it's not scarce anymore. I mean, there is an abundance of opportunity here. How do we step up collectively as a region and embrace that and move that forward? When we look at lost population, right? This is an area where I think there is really a huge opportunity, but it is one that is going to take much work and much engagement. We have large amounts of population in our region. I alluded to them earlier. Those that in the game of life, don't have in their toolbox the ability to see what the art of the possible could be. Those that have to work, the whole family has to work just to be able to sustain, a roof over their head or food on the table. They don't have transportation or access to transportation. They maybe do not speak our language. They come immigrating from, another country, And so, they don't know the customs, the norms. They can't necessarily just, matriculate and articulate into the workplace. But, I call them a lost population. They want to work. They work hard. Okay. We've got to get them, we've got to come around them with some amount of some type of wraparound services and capabilities that allow them to get into this workforce and start. Start at, skilled trades, go from skilled trades, then with, certificates and stackable credentials towards something that gets to kind of a 2-year associate's degree. The good news out of the preponderance of the jobs for Intel, Joby Aviation, Sierra Nevada Corporation, Duramax, all the ones that we are seeing there and these new, is that they're not 4-year degree jobs. Most of them are certificates and credentials. You can get somebody going in 4 to 6 months. And again, folks like Rick, in his elected official capacity, the Ohio elected officials and what have you have done a phenomenal job of getting tech credentials, credentialing in place, and trying to come around and wrap around and support businesses and going, but we have got to do more of that. Movement of young talent. This one's really sobering for Joe. When I look at the 4-year degree granting universities, so think of all those in the area, range from Cedarville, Central State, Wright State, University of Dayton, who am I missing, right? Okay. Across Ohio schools, 179,000 youth come in to get their degrees in our schools, right? They become Buckeyes of some form, some fashion. And sadly, at the end of every graduating class every year, 179,000 of them pretty much move and leave Ohio. Right? What are we doing? We have great jobs, we have great quality of life, we have a great place to live, we have great opportunities. We're missing the boat because we're not, engaging that student population. We're not getting them in the positions where they have the internships, the jobs, the opportunities that let them know that they can have a quality of life here, right? And hold on, even if we can hold 25% of them, or 40% of them would be wonderful, right? We'd be screaming, kicking it. So we've got some work to do there, I think, on our story. I mean, I'm very proud of our story. I mean, I'm a transplant, as you all heard from the introduction. I come out of California, work for the Air Force, and that's what actually got me here. But the story of everything that has happened in this region, not just the Wright brothers, right? I mean, certainly we know about them. Paul Laurence Dunbar, the poetry, all the writing there, jazz, hip hop, refrigeration, right? You look at everything, right? There's just tons and tons and tons of invention. In fact, there are more patents per individual, per capita here than actually granted to individuals than out of the Silicon Valley of meaningful nature and meaningful capacity, and we're just not capitalizing on that. So we've got some work to do on telling our story collectively and trying to basically hold on to the folks that we have. And I think I did earlier in terms of, one more, why not? Immigration. Good Lord. I mean, I don't care what your politics are. What a flippant embarrassment we are as a nation that we cannot even get an immigration policy satisfied or set in this country. Amen. I mean, so I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, agnostic, whatever. Write your elected officials and tell them to get on it and get with it. I would not be here today. My grandparents had not immigrated to the United States. Would not be here. Many of you from your histories would not be here today if your grandparents had not come into this country through an immigration pathway and had the opportunity to go through just what we're talking about today to be able to provide, this land of opportunity. And we need to be able to do that more. We're educating a lot of folks. I mean, they will come in, they're part of that 179,000. We'll educate them from another country. And as soon as they're done with that, they're on an education visa. They're not allowed to stay here and work. They have to go back. Come on, really? That doesn't, I mean, those are the ones that are even 4-year degrees. We have a bunch of others that come into these certificate credential type jobs as well. and go to work and stay here and be good. So the magnitude of this problem. Okay, data. Data is always the key, right? It's the motivator. We have, since I moved here in 2005, we've always been about 29, 30, 31,000 jobs a year unfilled. Okay, I mean, it's just been a rolling number. There's a disconnect. We have about that many jobs unfilled, and we have about that many people that are in the workforce, that haven't left the workforce, that are trying to get jobs. So there's something wrong, right? We're somehow not getting to those folks. When you couple that now with the regional in-demand jobs data that we have, shown here, this number of about 20,000 a year, and this is how this breaks down. As you come down, these are basically the net new jobs that we need every year, at least through 2030. Okay, as they look out 7 years, and it'll progress beyond that. So we're looking at 30,000 unfilled, with 20,000 net new coming in and on every year. All right, that's 50,000 a year. Pretty big, pretty huge. We're not making, right? Go back to the comment that just left me with the jaw dropped at a trade meeting. That ain't happening. I can use some automation. I can use some of those types of things to augment and fill in, right? But I've got to be able to go after this lost population. I've got to be able to go after those that are here. They're here already. They're new Americans, you know, they're refugees, they're immigrants, they're legalized, they're here, they want to work. We got to be able to reach out and get to those folks and be able to get them, you know, into the job place. We have other folks that there's another immigration status that's called like a parolee based on, you know, your country and where you've come from. It's a legal status entry type thing. You know, we need to get to work on some of the refugee immigration type policies and strategies to get that workforce available to start to fill some of these numbers. Okay, we take this now and then I look at the capacity of the institutions. Well, how many can Sinclair put out? How many can Clark State put out? How many can the Greene County Career Center put out? How many can the Miami Valley CTC put out? How many can OU put out? How many can OSU put out, etc.? In every case, every one of these areas, we find out that, well, they could meet the numbers. What they don't have is the input, right? So every one of these areas, we end up short overall. And so we need to be able to get ourselves positioned where we can provide the workforce and the individuals that can come in and get this education and get these opportunities. So a logical conclusion I would submit to you is that we need someone that wakes up every day and worries about this problem. And outside of maybe our elected officials that we have that worry about this problem, when I look around the region, and I'm happy to stand corrected here. If anybody says, no, Joe, this is who worries this, I can't point to one group or one organization in this region that actually worries this problem every day. Looks at advanced manufacturing, looks at, you know, the folks that were on the previous chart of material systems or logistics type tech and says, okay, we need 5,000 workers. We've got 2,500. Where are we going to get the other 2,500 from? And starts to work in kind of a talent brokerage and says, I got to get 2,500 people and I'm going to get 500 from, you know, the west side of Dayton. I'm going to get, you know, 500 by going and recruiting, you know, to outside areas outside the state of Ohio. And, you know, enticing folks to come back and take these jobs on, we've got to actively pursue, we've got to actively work this. So that is really what the Center for Talent Development is looking to be stood up. This is what John Houston said, if you can give me this as a regional model and we can take it from like the Dayton communities, then we can take it across the state. We can go to the Cincinnati communities, we can go to the Cleveland communities, the Columbus communities, the Delaware, etc. You know, work this thing as a statewide model, because in every area is just a little bit different, right? There isn't necessarily a one size fits all in terms of our communities and our regions, but these are the types of things that we're working on. And much like our regional STEM school that we established here in the early 2000s, all means all. You know, we're looking to have the ability to reach out and to touch everybody. And so we've put this model together, which basically works off of, you know, the numbers. Here's what it is we've got to do, and then here are the services that we would like this group and this organization to be able to provide. And we're not talking large in terms of the Center for Talent Development. I'm looking at this as being maybe 3, 4, or 5 people at most that kind of pick this stuff up and then really go in and work it. And so focus on teacher, employer, professional development. What is it that's needed there? What do the employers need? What do the teachers need to understand and see that what they're teaching and how they're teaching, you know, can actually speak to the students and the kids so that, well, we can't maybe get all the kids running through an employer's area, but if we get a teacher to go through and understand it, that teacher hits 175 kids a year, right? So if I get the teacher hitting 1, I get 175 from that teacher. So we need to be able to do those types of things. We need to be able to do our outreach and advocacy is really telling our story, the talent strategies, how do we come together, the new Americans, special populations, it's really the lost population, how do we reach out to them and work them. Then individual career and family services is really a concept and an idea that comes down to fundamentally a coaching type concept where we look at, you know, pathways to the careers. And we put a coach together. This is much like, you know, the old days, since there are many that look like me in here, where we had a career counselor in high school that would say, hey, you know, you ought to maybe look at the career in science, or you've got this proclivity, maybe you ought to look at this. I hate to tell you all, but mine told me that I should consider how to get my hands around a shovel. Because he did not think I was going anywhere, and that was enough to piss me off and motivate me to go get a degree in chemical engineering, and I stand before you today. So, you know, he had his means and his methods. But the reality is that we need folks to come alongside and coach at this point. The current counselors that are in the schools, they're swamped. They do not have time to do career counseling any longer. I mean, they're stuck and they cannot do that. So that's what we're working on. That's what I wanted to be able to bring with you and share with you today, and happy to answer any questions that you all might have. Yeah. Yes, sir.
People that I know, you know, in school and stuff, the main thing they teach you, you have to go to degree, you have to go to college. You won't get nowhere without it. But there's plumbing jobs out there
Yep.
making $78,000 a year, electricians.
Yep.
Machinists. which
Yep.
Leads into what you're saying. as far as-
Absolutely. I think one of maybe the better things that came out of the last couple of years of COVID per se is that folks really woke up to what are we paying for in terms of these 4-year degrees, and why are we getting our kids and ourselves and our families? I mean, we've got many adults that are like, you know, spending their retirement savings to get their kid through school, and the jobs are just not lining up. So it's turning itself on its head. Finally to the point where it is that certificate credential. It's almost, you know, a skilled trades type path in this, but yeah, absolutely. So we're finally seeing that.
Before I retired, I was a union representative.
Yep.
I had 33 contracts to stay behind. And I can't tell you how many companies quit doing the training, on the job training, you know, for journeyman's class cars.
Yep.
To be a machinist or electrician. They said it's costing them too much money.
Yeah.
Well, now we can't find a machinist.
Right.
Skilled trades, tool makers.
Yeah, those are exactly the types of things that we're tilting towards and want to be able to bring back. Exactly.
And motivate these companies to get that back in.
Yeah, they're not going to be successful without it. That's a sad thing. Where I say we can't fail, failure is not an option. I mean, the companies cannot create profit. They cannot create product without workforce. So we've got to get there. Sir.
I see all these commercials about Michigan, come up there and take a vacation. I don't see anything about Ohio.
Yep.
So you talk about people leaving. The other thing is, people that are 50 can get a retro degree and come in. That's a very responsible group.
Yep.
And I was just asking to take a look at retraining and enticing those individuals who have study skills, know how to study, know how to read, and know the imperative.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, those are fair. Those are what I call categorizing lost populations. We need to go back and talk to them. I mean, I read this morning, the United States Air Force is opening up its recruitment. You can be in your 40s now and go into the United States Air Force as a lieutenant. I told them if they rated above over 60, I might consider that.
Bob Pachoy's chomping at the bit right here.
There you go.
But you're absolutely right. And that's part of telling our story. We just don't tell that story. So we've got to work that collectively.
What does Ohio have? We don't have legs, we don't have. So, I mean, everybody passes through here. That's what it's there.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you don't know what they're seeing on TV in Michigan, they're saying come to Ohio.
He's not lying, Rick.
All right, will you be able to hang out? If you have some questions on your things. All right. Okay, well, thank you so much. Has become our custom. We are donating his book in Joe's name to the Greene County Community Library. She Wants It to Be Haunted is the name of the book. Okay, so our speaker next week is Dr. Mark Caleb Smith to talk about election 2024. Please consider inviting a prospective member or guest. We have Jonathan Hebrank as our greeter for next week, and maybe we have somebody else signed up with Jonathan. Bob Pachoy, all right, before he enters the army. Okay. So please keep an eye on upcoming programs at beavercreekrotary.com and Facebook. Does anybody have anything else to go to the club? All right, if everyone would rise for the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.